Well, it's certainly been a long time coming, but Honeycomb Aeronautical have finally released the Charlie Rudder Pedals. I've been lucky enough to get my hands on a loan unit thanks to my good friends at Wired to Fire. Link in the notes below. Welcome back to the SimHanger. My name's Mark. Thank you very much for watching. And perhaps we should get started by asking the question, why would you want rudder pedals in the first place? Rudders control the yaw, side-to-side movement of the aircraft, and when it comes to the control of your aircraft, it's as important as pitch and roll. It allows for such things as maintaining your heading in a crosswind, and an important element in doing a coordinated and controlled turn. If you're looking to replicate flying in the real world, well, you should be using rudder pedals. Size-wise, this is one of the larger units on the market at the moment, so arrives in a suitably sized box. It's a hefty unit, weighing in at just under 8 kg. The packaging is adequate for such a large unit, and the unit itself arrives fully assembled. So essentially you can take it out the box and you're ready to go. The rudder brake pedals themselves are made out of metal, as is the joining shaft, and the rest of the body is made out of a hardened plastic. There's a good tension to the brake axis itself. The tension of the brake axis is fixed, and it maintains the honeycomb look with the front grille with red LEDs. We'll have a look at that a little later on. Comes with a very basic instruction manual, but it covers off all the main points. Connection is via single USB. When you first receive the unit, you'll also get a hex bolt or Allen key, and the function of this we'll look at shortly. Connection is via single USB. It's a USB-A to USB-C as per all the other Honeycomb products, and maintains Xbox compatibility when used with the Honeycomb XPC yoke and hub. The unit itself obviously supports differential brakes, a separate left and right hand brake, useful for when you're trying to do a tight turn, especially in something like a tail dragger. The rudder axis itself, there's a good amount of movement. It's quite firm, it's not sloppy, and the tension here can be adjusted. This is done by rotating a knob on the back of the unit. The amount of adjustment achievable is limited. Also on the back is your USB connection, and the button on the far end controls the intensity of your LED lighting, which will vary from off to a gentle glow to a much stronger light. The not inconsiderable weight of these rudder pedals adds to the stability of the unit, but a lot of thought has gone into it, including the option for 4 mounting holes. Simply remove the appropriate plugs from the front face, making it suitable for mounting on a rig or similar. But that's not all. They've gone some way to prevent the unit from slipping and sliding. If it's mounted on a smooth surface, on the base it has multiple rubber pads to aid traction, and if mounted on a carpet, it comes with 4 grips built in. To access the grips is a fairly straightforward process. Each of the grips is held in with a screw. Simply unscrew the unit, remove it. Now on the underside you can see there are teeth suitable for gripping on a carpet. Simply reverse the unit, replace it back in, screw it down, and you're just about ready to go. The teeth are long enough so they will accommodate both the short and long pile carpet. The angle of the pedals is almost infinitely adjustable. To do that, using the Allen key, undo the screw at the end of the rudder pedal, pull out the small insert, which is serrated like a gear, and you can now remove the pedal. Both on the unit and in the pedal housing itself, there are serrations. It's simply a matter of you adjusting the pedal to the height that you prefer, more upright perhaps for GA flying, and lower for airliner, etc. It's up to you. I'm going to be testing this unit with a small GA aircraft, so I'm going to place it in a more upright position, more common in GA aircraft. That looks about right. To fix it in position, it's just a straightforward process. Replace the insert, screw it in, and it'll be held in place. Further angle adjustments are available by just simply loosening the screw here, but you probably won't need to do that. To ensure a fair and honest review, I will of course compare this to other rudder pedals towards the end of this video, but at this stage there's 2 points I want to highlight. Firstly, if you're going to get these rudder pedals, check the dimensions. They're fairly large and will not fit on all rigs. Secondly, the rudder axis itself is very noisy. Many rudder pedals are, but these are noisier than most. The good news is the pedals are pre-configured in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 and I assume 2024 as well, and I found the default configuration just worked perfectly with any aircraft that uses the default configuration. I didn't find any need to recalibrate in Windows, and under the control options and sensitivity tab, I was able to check that all the axes worked as expected, which they did. The resolution in the movement of the Z-axis or the yaw axis is relatively high, no surprise, as it's using Hall effect sensors. So in addition to setting a 4% dead zone, which is my preference, across all axes, I also turned down the sensitivity of the Z-axis to 50%, and I found this gave me a good level of control, representing something I'd find in a real aircraft. For my rudder pedals, I like to use a set and forget config. To get sensitivities right, I like to use a light aircraft, and Just Flight's Tomahawk, well, it's the perfect match. Filming rudder pedals whilst flying at the same time is always a precarious and hazardous operation, but we'll do the best that we can. Let's drop down so we can see the rudder pedals. Parking brake can come off, and we can now test the pedals in action. First of all, right rudder. That looks alright. Left rudder. Yes, we've got movement there. And of course we can test the brake action as well. First of all, the right brake. And the current config allows the brakes to be progressive, which is very, very useful indeed. Left brake now. All looking good. Both brakes. Everything seems to be operating perfectly. Time for us to give it a try. And let's get up in the air. First of all, we'll just push the throttle forward a little bit and get a bit of movement. Add a little bit of left rudder and the nose should go to the left, which it is. Now right rudder and to the right. Happy with that. Might have to trim that sensitivity down just a little bit more, but for the test it'll be fine. Let's now test the brakes. Right brake and nose goes to the right, left brake and she's pulling to the left, and now both bring us to a stop. That's good. Let's move our feet now back to the control position, and let's see how much we need to dance on the rudder pedals to keep her straight. Relatively flat but a slight incline here. Coming up on 30 knots and making sure we're aligned, just making very small adjustments with the rudder pedals to keep the nose straight. Just passing 50 knots. And we'll rotate at about 65 knots. There it is, pulling up. Now we can climb out. Climbing now to a safe altitude, we can try out the rudders. Fairly aggressively with the right rudder initially and then with the left rudder. Once she's stabilized, and the aircraft is reacting exactly as we would expect it to. We're able to turn the aircraft nose into the wind whilst maintaining a direction. We're now going to turn back to the airport, right hand turn, with a touch of right rudder just to maintain a coordinated turn. The benefit of the Hall effect sensors clearly showing here. We're now coming in for a landing, but I'm a little bit high, so I can now go into a slightly forward or side slip. That's opposite aileron and rudder. Helps me control my speed whilst increasing my rate of descent. Using left rudder and right aileron in combination with the power allows me to control my rate of descent to get me more aligned. And now all we got to do is master the landing. And finally we're down, again using the rudder to keep me aligned, just very gently on the brakes to slow me down to allow me to turn. I'm applying a bit of right brake and right rudder simultaneously to bring me to a stop. Touch the left brake and we're there. So how does Honeycomb Aeronauticals Charlie Rudder Pedals stack up against the competition? Weight-wise, they're relatively heavy, slightly more than Thrustmaster's TPR and Virpil's Ace Rudder Pedals, by about 3/4 of a kg. In terms of overall footprint size, rivaling Turtle Beach's Rudder Pedals. The product is available via various retailers, including Wired to Fire in the UK, and direct if you're based in the US. Aerosoft is their European distributors, of course. UK prices are including VAT. Please note, however, that prices are purely indicative and subject to change, especially as this video will be released sometime after the initial recording. As you would expect, they completely outclass Thrustmaster's T-Flight rudder pedals, which are aimed at the casual or budget user, and Thrustmaster's price reflects just that. This offer from Thrustmaster is functional but not a lot else. Perhaps the most direct comparison is to Turtle Beach's Velocity 1 rudder pedals. Very much the same features and functionality. Their list price is 300 US or 300 euros, but are offered almost universally with a 10% discount, making them $80 US cheaper, and therefore in my personal opinion represent better bang for your buck than the Honeycomb offering at this time. I'll leave a link to my review in the notes below. Both of these rudder pedals are Xbox compatible. Please note that the Charlie Rudder Pedals are Xbox compatible but must be used with the Alpha XPC yoke and the hub. They will not function just using the hub alone. I've tested it on Xbox and it works fine. Because the Charlie Rudder Pedals are 350 US, I have to compare them to similar priced rudder pedals, such as Whirlpool's Ace Rudder Pedals, which I personally use on my static rig. The Whirlpool price includes the dampener, which is essential for this rudder set, but in my opinion, Whirlpool outclass Honeycomb. On my motion rig, my DOF Reality H3 motion rig, I use Thrustmaster's TPR pedals. Considerably more expensive, the TPRs are outclassed in terms of bang for your buck, but in terms of feel and usability, well, they're right up there with the Whirlpool Ace Rudder pedals. Having said that, TPR and the Whirlpool Ace both need to be mounted and are not great freestanding. And that now brings us to my final thoughts and opinion on Honeycomb Aeronauticals Charlie Rudder Pedals. Well, overall, I think they're a very competent set of rudder pedals. They perform exactly as you would expect them to do. The resolution in terms of the amount of movement is very good indeed. They're simple to set up and so on. However, there are two negatives that I need to mention. The first one is the price at 350 US. I do feel they're a little bit on the pricey side compared to the competition, the likes of Turtle Beach and so on. Now, these rudder pedals are late in being released, and they're substantially late. I think I'm being ultra conservative if I say they're 2 years late. It's probably closer to the 3. And at the time, had they come out at about US dollar 249, well, they would have been very competitive indeed, even allowing for inflation and saying 299 US would have been perhaps a slightly different story. But at 350 US, I do think they are expensive. The other negative that I need to mention is they are very noisy. Now, a lot of rudder pedals make a noise. They are a bit noisy. Turtle Beach is another noisy set of rudder pedals, but not to the point of the Honeycomb Charlie rudder pedals, where they are somewhat distracting. It is louder than what I'm used to, and it is a factor that you need to bear in mind. Now, of course, there will be the inevitable comment about, are these the real Honeycomb Aeronautical Charlie Rudder Pedals due to the ongoing dispute? I'm not going to get into that. I mean, we have Nikki coming and making of various claims and counterclaims and then disappearing off the scene for months and months and months on end, not hearing a thing, and then suddenly another claim and so on. So I'm not going to get into that. These are from Honeycomb Aeronautical, and they're a set of rudder pedals. The only concern I would have, and what is unproven, is the level of support. Now, during the conflict period, if I can call it that, support was extremely poor indeed, and I think Honeycomb Aeronautical have to go some way to restore confidence. So based on the price, the noise, and a question regarding ongoing support and the reliability thereof, I have to say, taking everything in the round, and despite being a big fan, as you know, if you watch this channel, of Honeycomb products, I can't recommend the Charlie Rudder Pedals. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you found this useful and informative. Stay well, look after yourself, see you again soon, and ciao for now.